got into a lot about mindset, mindfulness, mind-body connection, how to regulate to get into that comfort zone, because a lot of people are unaware.
I tend to open with a 3-minute meditation. And I only do 3 minutes because that's the most people can handle. They feel like, wow, I think I took a nap. Ask my client, where are you feeling this? To do a body scan. I had a client who, this was her second child, and she was getting into a sense of panic. She wasn't on medication yet this time around. I'm not a therapist, but here's where I can help you.
Hello, everybody. And today's guest is someone who works and aligns beautifully with the healthy mind. Faiza Liban is a certified parent coach. She's a mindfulness facilitator and the founder of the Mindful Living. She specializes in supporting employees and leaders through major life transitions, especially the journey into parenthood and the return to work. Parenthood is a period of transformation and expansion. It brings anticipation, uncertainty, and growth. Faiza empowers her clients by reinforcing a foundational belief. They remain valued members of their organization. Their desire for meaningful work still matters. Rather than seeing the return to work as something to overcome, she reframes it as an opportunity to create a mindful and intentional transition that aligns with a person's values and evolving identity. Through practical coaching, she helps parents navigate pregnancy, birth, early parenthood, and the shifts back into the workplace. She also guides HR teams and managers on how to better support employees during these pivotal stages. Her work recognizes that every pregnancy is different. Every birth story is unique. Every return to work path requires individualized care. Supporting employee well-being, she believes, is not optional. It's a lifeline. Faiza is trained in the mindset approach to well-being with Dr. Dan Siegel and holds certifications in mindful communication, mindfulness fundamentals, diversity and inclusion, and parent coaching. I am excited to welcome Faiza Liban to the Healthy Mind. And when I met Faiza, and she told me that she's a mindfulness coach, and we spoke very briefly, I totally resonated with your message, and I said, you need to come and speak to my audience because you're very special, and I'm very excited for you to accept the offer to coming today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
So let's just start off with education, and then we'll get into what you do and your specialty. Is the terminology like a mindfulness coach? Like what is it? What is a mindfulness coach, and like what is the mindfulness coach? What is it practically used for? Because when people use the word mindfulness, it's some people that are not educated or aware enough can be turned off by it, or because they don't understand it. On the opposite, for me, I love it. It resonates with me, and the language that you speak actually resonates beautifully with the healthy mind. So let's just start off with what is a mindfulness coach or coaching, and what.
So first of all, thank you for having me here. When I met you,
Yes.
and I just feel like our messages connected, and
Yes.
we just felt we resonated with each other.
Yes.
And in that moment, we just, taking our conversation, over to the podcast. When you mentioned it, it just felt natural.
Totally natural.
So thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I want to dive into mindfulness.
Yes.
Because it is one of the most overused words. If you can, we have so many buzzwords these days, right? And at some point, mindfulness became one of those. And at times, it is misconstrued as being religious even. But mindfulness, and I'll start with the definition for me, is about creating awareness and being in the present moment. And I don't know about you or anyone out there, but I have never been present and stressed out. I have never been present for this moment and at the same time been worried about something else. So I would say the art of mindfulness is learning how to be in the present moment. It sounds very simple, but it's cultivating habits and intentions and practice so that we can be in the present moment. Because these days, being in the present moment is very difficult. Right?
100%. And that's why I'm excited for you to be here, because I'm going to bring this into the patient's room and what I have to deal with as far as understanding how the world is changing so much, specifically with information overload.
Yes.
And the tools that we are lacking in order to regulate ourselves has been a big deal. And I think this is great. So keep going. So keep going about mindfulness, because people think that mindfulness also is a coping strategy, right? Okay. So can we differentiate that?
So it can evolve into being a coping strategy, right? But when we think of mindfulness and the art of being present, the first thing that comes to me is, especially over the years, is there are so many aspects and facets of our lives where we can be mindful. For example, mindful communication, right? We can have mindful dialogue. And what does that really mean? Just listening to each other is a mindful experience.
So I love the fact, okay, so people think that mindfulness is meditation, right? And
No.
Right, exactly. And they don't realize that you use the word awareness. I use the word noticing, because once you start noticing and becoming aware. But I think the first step, when people want to know how to heal, and you said it beautifully, is the first step is to enjoy the now and being present now.
Yes.
And it sounds, like you said, so easy. It's a tool and it's a practice. And this is where you come in, this is where I come in, and this is where we teach our patients how to press pause and be in the present now. And I can tell you from my experiences, and we're going to get into our programs as far as what we download and how our subconscious downloads, is that I have a family member that is a parent who struggles, and he's open about it, struggles with being present. I was shipped around as far as with my father, who's open about it. And meaning shipped around is that we really did a lot of things together, yet there was always an escape route. There was always a worry. Let's beat the traffic. Let's go to the game. Let's do overprogramming, to worrying about what's going to happen. And I downloaded that, and for sure. And to this day, that is my tool, is my meditation and the things that I've changed in my personal life in order to learn how to slow it down and be present and enjoy the moment. Because my programming growing up was not that, and I decided to change. So let's go into that. How important it is going into the programs of what we've downloaded from our parents or whoever raised us.
So this is one of my favorite aspects of
Beautiful.
coaching. Yes.
Let's go.
And so I describe it to my clients as your conditioning. We have our generational conditioning, which is what we've been downloaded from our parents. And we have our collective conditioning, which is the environment we've grown up around. So the media we've been processing, the belief systems that are around us, what people are doing around us, and that monkey see, monkey do that we all grow up with, that becomes keeping up with the Joneses, etc., right? But going back to downloading, I truly believe that everyone has their original C drive somewhere. We just really need to tap into it. And that C drive contains the person we were supposed to be without the conditioning from our parents and their parents and their parents, so generationally. So the short answer there for me is going to be, who did you become to survive the parents you had? And is that person serving you today?
Okay, so this is good. So let's start from the beginning, because I like to start off from the beginning, because that's the beginning of the download information. And okay, the first step is to your client is, number one, is when you get in there, number one, do they recognize that they resonate with one of their parents or they're a mixture of their parents? And number two is, which we'll get into, is can you tell if they're open to change?
Those are very good questions. So my experience, it's been they either resonate with one parent or their attention is so focused on the effect that the parenting of one of the parents had on them. And at some point I'll say, tell me about your dad. We've talked about your mom for 5 sessions. Can we talk about your dad? And what happens with people generally is that the person that they perceive to have been affected by the most is the person they carry the perceived trauma from? Most times, the silent parent, the parent that wasn't contributing in their mind as much, also affected them. So when you bring that to the table, they realize, wait, I've inherited and taken on a lot from both sides, because what you were taking on from the other parent, you were so consumed by that, you didn't really notice what you were missing from the other parent. So what I see generally, though, is they tend to lean into one side.
But isn't it amazing that you download this information, you become somewhat the programs that are very similar to one parent or a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
And then you start hardwiring that belief based on perspective, like you mentioned in the beginning, and seeing through that lens. And then when things happen in life, as you get older, it explains it through bias, and these pathways become stronger and stronger and stronger, where you can't see completely the opposite of what you're believing. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I do believe that specifically when you look at someone's path through life and they've had these belief systems and they've affected them and shaped them in some ways, what I've also found through coaching is that people become a little bit more forgiving about where they've been and their programming. And they start to see, wait a minute, I can actually be free of this because my parents meant well, my father meant well. We're not talking about major traumatic incidents here,
correct,
obviously. And that's why I tell my clients, I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach. The work we do is very different than the work you do with a therapist. And so when people excavate where they've been, I think it's an archaeological process, because you're really going back to look and see, who did I need to become to survive the parents I had, right? But then we focus a lot on generational strengths as well. So as they really work on where they've been, where their parents have been, and realizing their parents worked from the level of consciousness that they had and the tools that they were given.
Right.
And this wasn't personal.
Right.
My parents just did the best job they could do.
Yes.
And starting that forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others, you can start to actually let go of the pieces of you that you needed the most when you were surviving your childhood, and start embracing the pieces of you that you need, that you want to keep and serve you more today.
And the reason why I'm doing this, also talking to you, is that because, and we'll get into why I've done this, why I'm doing this, is because people don't realize that when they come see the neurologist for certain conditions and symptoms, it is a lot related to a lot of things that are built inside of them and their habits. And when I talk about habits, it's not just like an action. It's not like just smoking or drinking or that's or even gratitude. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the way you think, is a habit, right? The way you feel can be a habit as well. And all it takes is a cue and a behavior, an action, or a thought, and then the reward. And that's just the cycle of that subconscious automatic cycle. So when patients come see me with symptoms, a lot of times I can just diagnose a condition, but you have to get into this because these are held inside of them, and you got to really be able to change these programs. That's why a lot of times patients are coming to see me, they think they're going to get immediately just a medication. And yes, I can stabilize the condition with a medication. I want to go back and change why they're not feeling well. Why do you not feel well? What are the stressors or what you're holding inside of you that's making you feel not well? Yeah. So let me get back into the beginning, because I'm so, because you're talking about parenting, and so I just see that like parents become their grandparents. It's the over, and I could see, you have a very growth mindset and change mindset. You've changed things. I think that typically just women, mothers, take care of children more than men, and more of a figure than men itself. And I feel that as the children grow up, they hold the mother most accountable, because the mother really makes major decisions. And parenting, I mean, because I had my kids young, and looking back, we were so young, we made decisions, and we made the decisions that we thought were best for our children, but we're young, and and these are decisions that we made. It's just, it seems that also the mothers usually take they get the most amount of guilt, and they get the most amount of blame. Is this correct?
Yes.
So really quick, because you can talk about this forever, is that how do you get somebody not to victimize their role, or victimize as, or even blaming their mother or father on, without trauma, but just in general, just the things that the beliefs and things that were told to them, and how do you get somebody to really understand this?
So this is also one of my favorite exercises.
Yes.
When we look at our parents,
Yep.
I use a model that worked for me, right? And what I try to get my clients to understand is, first of all, you cannot change people, right? You can only change the way you respond to them. And you can only change your actions. I don't like using the word control your actions.
Right.
You can really only just have awareness and control over what you do. So when you think of a parent, that is who they are. That is who they've been, right? That's who they became when they were parented by their parent and their parent and their parent. So the person in front of you is who they are. And if that's your mother, your number one goal isn't to change your mother, right? The mother you had when you were a little girl, she's gone. She's not the woman standing in front of you. The woman standing in front of you has been shaped by all of the same years you were growing up, right? And this is who she is. The habits that served her all of those years will not change because you blame her. They will not change because you don't like her, or because you feel like she's responsible for your pain. What's going to change fundamentally, what's going to change not only your outlook, but the outcome, is to remember that your parent was just there for the first time as well. She was just a woman having a baby, learning on the job, and doing this for the first time. The tools she had at the time, or not, are what she used to raise you, right or wrong. That life is over. Now, the person in front of you, you may not have a lot of compassion for them in the moment, but the minute you start to understand they had a journey too, right? They came here to be a person, not just your mother, right? And realizing that she did everything she could do, that she knew how to do, to raise you. That humanizes your mother. And then you say, who did I become to survive this person that's causing me or this perceived pain? This is the person I became to survive her. Is this person serving me? Are my habits today serving me? Right? Are my thoughts about my mother serving me? How can I heal so that I don't repeat this cycle? Right? And what have I learned so that I can do differently for my child, who's still going to have therapy 30 years from now and blame me, right?
Yep.
And so the first step is to humanize your mother.
Faiza, I cannot tell you, I'm taking care of people that are in their 80s and 90s, and they still talk about their parents. And it's so ingrained.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still see, I saw a couple in their 85, one was 85, one was almost 90, talking about what their experiences with their parents and how they lived their life in this journey of just blame, or it's just fascinating to me. And I've discussed this, is that forgiveness is so important. I think that's the letting go.
Yeah.
Forgive them. Say they didn't know better, and this is who they are, but don't excuse their behavior. Is this correct?
Correct.
Is just say they did not know better. They don't have the tools, and they did not know better. So back to the tools now, is that I'm seeing in my office and there's so many people that are coming in with neurological symptoms and not feeling well, and there's a lot of things going on, and I feel that mind-body connection and people understanding what they're not feeling, they don't have the tools now. I'm seeing a big shift since COVID of people that cannot regulate their autonomic nervous system. So if you can't regulate your autonomic nervous system, which is your part of your nervous system, then you can develop symptoms in your body, which is the nervous system actually acting out. So what can that be? Like, just very quickly, it could be headaches, it could be neck pain, back pain, jaw pain, difficulty sleeping, stomach issues. I just could make the list and list, and I just see so many patients not feeling well. So I'm asking you, as far as mindfulness, is that, are you seeing the younger generation now who are having, because now we're going to get into eventually about people that are having children and, you know, we're in the workforce, are they not having the tools? Are they lacking the tools? Are they, because I feel that there's so much mindfulness on the internet, and I think it's still not practiced at all, actually. I feel like people just don't have time for it. That's not a priority. The priority is overloading schedules and social media comparisons and whatever it is. It's just not really being able to sit with your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot.
Okay.
I'm seeing it in young children. Mm-hmm. I don't work with kids, but I'm seeing it. I have teenagers, so I definitely see this. And a lot of my clients are very young. They're typically having their kids for the first time.
Okay.
Right? And what they're used to is the go, go, go mindset. Right. If they're not busy at work, they're busy on their phone.
Yep.
It's almost like we become very uncomfortable with silence.
Yep.
And very uncomfortable with waiting, but also very uncomfortable with what is happening to us. So we either want to rush to the doctor to get a prescription,
sure,
instead of just sitting with it.
Right.
Right? So I'm seeing that happening a lot. There's a lot of worrying. A lot of my clients are dealing, we call it the 3 o'clock. When they wake up, it's the worry o'clock. It's no longer 3 o'clock. They're waking up at 3 a.m. with worries that they didn't even realize they were having, because it's just playing in the subconscious. Sure. Right? So they're new moms, they're overwhelmed, and then they're not sleeping. So which can have catastrophic consequences, especially at work. If you are not sleeping and you're back at work and you make a mistake, some of those mistakes are costly, and your company is paying for you to have this coaching so you can become a productive employee. So we have to manage the stress and the worry. And the main reason is slowing down. Even as a new mom, they generally feel like, I have to be a great mom. My child has to be sleeping through the night by 6 weeks. They're already a terrible mom by the time the kid is like 10 weeks old. They're like, I failed. Like, wait, let's slow down. Why are you a bad mom? Oh, my kid is having a bottle instead of nursing, or my kid's not sleeping through the night. And they really have very high standards for themselves. But when you really think about it, Dr. Resnick, it's not high standards. They're in a rat race. And they're not unwinding, they're not slowing down, and they're lacking the tools to slow down and say, what is my body saying to me? What are my needs right now? And tuning in and saying, what do I need the most right now?
Very well said. At night, my patients are telling me they can't fall asleep because their mind is racing. So they grab the phone and then they fall asleep. And then the second part is that they have fragmented sleep, where they wake up, like you said, at 3 a.m. or whatever time it is. And then the brain can't shut off. So what do they see? They see doctors, and doctors, not me, but some doctors prescribe medications just to numb them. And then they wake up in the morning, feel groggy or tired. And okay, so... But let me ask you something, because do you feel let's get into mom, because this is, I guess we're going to get into that, is that, do you feel that so as a mother to work, right? So if you're a working mom, okay, so I have tons. I mean, you saw people in my office. Some of them are single moms, and my nurse practitioners, and they're super moms. They have kids, and but the kids now have so many like activities and so many things, like they're overprogrammed.
Yeah.
So you got to wake up early in the morning to, let's say, if they're young, right, to make, to pack their lunches, right? Then you got to get to work, and then you got to pick them up, and then maybe take them to soccer practice. I'm just giving an example. And then, so where's the time to slow it down? Where's the me time? Like, how, like as a coach, this is I got to be the number one, top 5 on the list here, because sometimes I don't have the answer to help my patients. I would love for you to teach me. There's no time for the presence of being now and enjoying. Yeah. Okay. And let's get to that, because so help me like, how do you do this? Because I feel like moms are overexhausted, specifically single moms. They're like, I feel that there's a large population of patients that come to see me with really bad migraines because of all the tension, and they're suffering.
So that's another good one.
Yes.
There's this huge misconception.
Mm-hmm.
It's like chasing happiness. It's never going to happen.
Okay.
Because happiness is not only an inside job, but happiness is in moments.
Yes.
Life wasn't designed this way.
Yes.
Like the Buddha said, life is suffering. So I taught my kids from a young age that life doesn't go smoothly. Life goes in waves. Yes. Right? It's like a roller coaster.
Okay.
Sometimes we buckle up for the roller coaster, but when we don't need to buckle up, we have to be in the joy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking for moments, right? As a mom, I call it stolen moments. Mm-hmm. If you're a very busy mom and you're listening to me right now, don't chase the illusion of me time and happiness. It doesn't exist. You create it, and you become very intentional, but you steal it from your day. I'll give a very easy example. The first thing I do when I wake up is have a cup of hot water. I've been drinking hot water for almost 30 years now, right? And I love it first thing in the morning. But when I do, I don't even walk the dog. I take 5 minutes to drink my hot water, and I sit down without my phone. That's my hot water time. Mm-hmm. That 5 minutes of silence, of quieting the mind, is worth an hour, right? Mm-hmm. And then there are what I call transition moments for moms. You're dropping your kid at school, but you have that drive to work. That's your transition time. You can meditate in the car, people. Meditation doesn't always involve closing your eyes. So don't meditate and close your eyes when you're driving. So your other stolen moment is an example, you're in the car. Be in that present moment. If you like music, play one of your favorite songs. Listen to your favorite podcast, hopefully Dr. Resnick's, right? And sometimes I drive in silence. And when you're present, and this is part of being mindful, it really recalibrates your mind. You've allowed 20 minutes to get to work. Plan ahead. Add an extra 10 if you can, because then you're not stressed about the person that cut you off. Then you're not stressed about the garbage truck in front of you. And you're not stressed about that accident that you didn't plan for. These things happen. Driving to work, you have to accept ahead of time could take longer than 20 minutes. And that reduces stress. But your transition times, both going to work and coming home, you've seen the moms that are in the driveway for 10 minutes, 20 minutes before they get inside. Yeah. That's transition time. Mm-hmm. If you use your time wisely in the car and not drop off your kid and start business calls right away, you are just perpetuating the stress, right? So when you drop off your child, allocate that 15, 20-minute drive to yourself. I hope you brought a cup of tea or coffee. Drink your coffee. Think about your day and set an intention and say, what is the one thing I'm hoping for that I can make happen today? And you can. So it's really about stolen moments. If you wait to have an hour, it won't happen. And guess what happens then? You become resentful because you're running to work, you're running the kids around, you're the chauffeur, you are badass at work, but your cup is empty. Mm-hmm. And you cannot give from an empty cup. So don't wait for that moment. Go to bed early. If your children are settled in, if you're done with whatever you need to do that evening, go to bed 20 minutes early. That 20 minutes can be reading time, relaxing. It might even be listening to a podcast. I know I'm not a fan of phones in bed, but if you're very intentional, you have to be on purpose, you will find a few minutes.
I mean, you said it so beautifully, and I think I agree with you. And for me, I was just with my work. It's just go, 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 go. I found time to. I wake up in peace. I do a little. I go through a whole little family, and I say, "Thank God for this. Thank God what I have, not what I want. It's what I have." And then I, shower, breakfast, eat, silence, no phone, and then before I get to the ICU, when I was working in the hospital, I would go in a corner and I would meditate, and the nurses and the secretary of the ICU knows not to bother me. Give me my 15 minutes. And sometimes it's because I know that when I work the day, is that my day is for everybody else. I'm just working for, I'm taking care of patients, but it's not me. It's like everybody, like I'm just working. But so at this point, it's my time, and I really enjoy that time with my warm. And the warm is actually, it's interesting because like Tati, the word warmth is exactly what we need. Is that actually stimulates the vagus nerve. So it's very well said. What I also, the way I talk about that too is mood. I'm very, our brain wants to understand our mood all the time. Wants to give meaning, and a lot of people don't understand their moods because moods fluctuate. It could be hormonal, it could relate to sleep, it could relate to caffeine. But the thing is, for me, is that what changed my life is actually, I remember I took a hypnosis course, and they asked me like what's your perfect day, and some people were going over like what their perfect day was, and going on the mountains and hiking and all this stuff, and I said my perfect day is actually going home happy. And I said to myself, what did that mean? I said, well, usually as the day goes, I just get revved up. By the time I get home, I'm just like burnt out. I just don't want to talk to anybody, and my mood was off. But when I'm cognizant of as the day goes, like you just said, those moments where I can shift, like if I was in traffic or whatever it is, and I, instead of being upset at the traffic, put my favorite podcast on or my favorite music, use it for like, okay, great, we're in traffic. Now I can enjoy the moment. So I love the way you do that, is really bringing in the moment, because a lot of people think that they're overprogrammed and they are not aware because their subconscious is running. But very quickly, I just want to tell just the audience is that the nervous system is built for survival, like you said, not happiness. I love the way you said that. And people who are chasing happiness is not going to get happiness, because that's not going to be. It's a moment, and being in the moment is to be happy. So the nervous system, when it's pushed in survival and stress mode, and it's being mobilized, and all the energy is towards worry and everything of this life that is given to us during the day, as far as whatever it is that our calories and our efficiency is all burnt out. It's inefficient, and we're in a state of hypervigilance. We're reacting. Look at everybody, and just with you, it's just by talking to you for the first time, we talked briefly, is that it's just like it's just so nice to talk to somebody that is like well spoken, is also in control of their mind. And I don't like. Let's take the word out of control. Let's use the word noticing and aware, and be able to communicate. And even listen. Like, you're just a good listener as well. I can tell. It's just, and that's how you connect. And when you're in connection, when you're in calm and safety, that's where you want to be, and that's your moment. You own that moment, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's what people forget.
Yes.
You really do own that moment.
Yeah.
That mindfulness isn't passive, because you can take the right action when you're in awareness.
So okay. So we have like a lot of stressed people, and we're all. So how? I want to go back into this, because I'm sure people want to know. When they want to hear this, they want to know, like, from this podcast, what can I get out of this? I'm sure they got a lot already. It's just that, what can they change in order to help themselves? So You give this advice, which is amazing. Now, how do you put this into action? Because that's the key, is how do you change someone's mindset and put that into action?
By doing a self-inquiry.
Okay.
It is take inventory, take stock of who you are.
So awareness.
Yes.
Okay.
Take stock and be completely raw and honest with yourself. An example of forgiving our parents. Whatever happened, happened. But not forgetting it had an impact on you. And saying, okay, I may be in compassion with my family. I may be in forgiveness with them. But I am still wounded. I still feel wounded. What do I do with this? And saying, how am I wounded? Everyone has their blueprint. For some people, it's abandonment, right? And you say, okay, every time my mother doesn't show up for babysitting, I feel angry and upset. Why do I feel this way? Look for all the ways your body is showing you that you're hurting, that you're upset, and look for the reasons and connect the dots. So it's the radical acceptance of yourself and say, okay, I am typically very angry, or I'm typically very insecure about this, right? Or I feel not enough, right? And not enoughness is such a, it's such a pandemic is where I was going, right? And saying, why, start there.
Yeah.
Why do I feel this way?
Right.
Take your self-inquiry, but be very, very radical with yourself and say, I am this way. I exhibit the following symptoms or behavior when this happens. Why is that happening? Go in there. If you need therapy, do it. But figuring out why you behave the way you do is the portal.
Is the first step.
Is the first step.
Yes.
That's the portal and the first step to then taking action.
Because we talked about that, the subconscious is running, and the way you act, and
Yes.
think, and behave is all part of that loop.
Yeah.
And they're not unaware of it. They just keep doing it over and over again. But I like the fact that you just brought in a belief, because that's so that's what I talk about programs, is building beliefs. And you just brought in a big belief, is that I'm not good enough, or I'm not loved enough.
Yes.
Those are the two, number 1 and 2. And what I say is that people have like it's amazing to me. It's like the brain just does like the way we learn, and it's just 2 boxes. I am good enough and I'm not good enough. And then when the brain pays attention, because of the fear and the survival of the box of I am not good enough, it starts looking why you're not good enough all the time, and it runs an autopilot.
Yeah, it does. And
Yeah.
when we're not careful about that, what happens is that your own inadequacies come face to face with you the most when you become a parent.
Yep.
And then you start to think you can save your children from X, whatever your issue is. And what you don't realize is you're actually passing the fear on. You're passing the inadequacy on. You're passing the not good enoughness on. And it's one of the first steps is when you recognize it, is saying, okay, what do I do with that? Right? Because the sooner you can change that, the better it is. You are breaking a generational cycle.
Okay, so quickly, I was going to ask you that. So the one thing I was asking is that if you downloaded like a behavior, a belief, or let's say a belief, and through your parent, and then you were not aware of it, then you basically raise your child with the same belief, same patterns. So do you see the opposite, where then they go the other complete way? I was raised this way, and now I'm going to do the complete opposite.
Yes.
And the guilt. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I see that.
Yes.
I see where parents do that. And
like I'm not going to be like
I'm not going to be like my parents.
Right.
I'm going to go the completely opposite way.
Right. Okay.
I tried it many years ago. It works for a while. But sooner or later, you have to come face to face with yourself. Because one way or another, you are impacted. Yes, you went the other way. And you physically and probably logistically put in place everything you needed to put in place so that you do not repeat those cycles. But one way or another, you have to come face to face with yourself, because throughout your becoming, and this can be the becoming the version of you that will never be like your parent, there were trade-offs and there were sacrifices. And so at some point, the kettle boils. And you may not be doing the exact thing, but it's manifesting in a different way. If you really look in your life, you will find that that issue is manifesting in a different way in your life.
How do you differentiate? You talk, I'm not a therapist, because it seems like you're not therapizing the person. Because I don't really, I'm not a huge, I don't like to therapize as much. As a doctor, I like to, yes, obviously you want to have empathy. I like to take, like what you're doing, is to move forward.
Yes.
Right. Learn from mistakes, or learn from failures.
Yes.
You know, because that learn from uncertain. So how do you delineate? Do you like not to be a therapist? You just keep on talking about mindset and pushing forward. Is that?
So we do talking.
Okay.
But we also do a lot of doing.
Doing.
Right. So the main difference, I would say, between what I do and what a therapist does,
yes,
I really challenge my clients.
Yeah.
And for example, someone could say to me that they have a complaint. I manage relationships a lot, by the way, during coaching. And over time, you realize half the problem isn't the baby. Half the problem is managing the boss, the relationship with the husband, the mother-in-law, etc., right? The first question I'll ask you is it true? Right? So a question could be, oh, whenever my mother-in-law comes over to take care of the baby, the house is chaotic, I get mad, I get upset, but what can I do? She's helping with the baby, right? And I'll say, so tell me how you feel again. I get mad, I get frustrated, I get upset, and I feel like she added to the stress more than she helped. And I'll say, is it true? Is it really, really true? And this is based on Byron Katie's work.
The 4 questions.
Is it really true, doing the work, that she's causing the problem? And then they'll argue with me. There'll be a yes or a no. And I'll say, okay, let's put that aside. What happens when you believe the thought that when your mother-in-law comes in to help you with the baby, your life gets worse? Right? What happens when you believe that? She gets, okay. And then I'll hear, I'm irritable, I'm mad, I'm in a bad mood, I get even more stressed out. And the third question, as you know, is who would you be without that thought? So the very essence of my coaching is, just because we think, and the mind is, that's what it does. We programmed our mind. It's a big database. We've been feeding our mind with data for years, right? And it's regurgitating all of that. It got in a cycle, in a habit, as you were explaining before. Do you have to believe every thought you think? Can we sit with that thought? Right? And say, is it true? And if it's true, is it serving me? It can be true. And who would I be with this thought? When I ask that, you hear, oh, I'd be less stressed. I wouldn't be criticizing her as much. I would focus on the fact that I got to work remotely and my baby was taken care of, right? So it's not minimizing any issues with another. It's challenging yourself to say, what happens when I believe this thought? And just because you think it does not mean it's true. And we create habits and intentions. So after every session, each client gets not only a recap, but they get homework. Right? My 3 a.m., my worry o'clock, she only did it twice and didn't worry again. I don't know if you've tried this. I said, what we agreed upon was, when you go to bed, when you're ready to literally retire, you'll go to bed with a pen and paper. I want you to list everything that went right, everything that you feel went wrong. Notice I said everything you feel went wrong. May not be true that anything went wrong. Write down what went right, what went wrong, what you're anticipating tomorrow, and what you're most worried about or afraid of today. She would have to show me that list for the next session. So I said, you have to do that every night until we meet again. She didn't wake up at 3 o'clock after 2 nights.
That's great. Good.
Yeah, so you have to befriend fear and befriend the worry and anticipate that the brain is programmed this way by me. Right.
Well, that's the true way to change beliefs. I that's exactly what I usually tell people when they believe a certain way, and beliefs, I mean, come in different ways, and they're very under the radar. And in the medical field, it's like you need to the doctor has to give me a prescription for something, or they believe they have a condition like, brain tumor or whatever it is. It's just, there's a lot of belief and then that changes things. So, but I like the fact you challenge beliefs, and I usually ask if the belief is helpful or harmful, and that usually, triggers. So they write it down, they journal, they become aware, they start noticing, and then they start putting into work, and that's how to change. That's change therapy.
Yes.
Okay, now so let's get into. You said it before, and I spoke to you briefly about this. Is that I thought as a doctor that when I saw patients that when they were coming to see me, then I would talk to them and I would draw diagrams, and patients would get better just based on like diagrams and just like be noticing and what their behaviors. There was a huge gap because then no matter what I said consciously, it just could not change that. It's like just I know when someone can change or not, or there's potential just within 5 minutes, usually by the words the patients use and just the connection. Then I started to understand that in order to change subconsciously, because nonverbal language, like you described, is very subconscious. It's under-level consciousness, and most language is not language the way we speak. It's actually, a lot of it's subconscious. People don't understand that a lot of the subconscious programs drop in our body, and that's the reason why we have so many symptoms and sensations, and we can't even explain them. So the mind-brain-body connection is just such a disconnection. And so what I'm getting at is that I started to notice that you need to heal, and I'm going to say this, is through the body as well. And the vagus nerve, which is a cranial nerve that stems from the medulla and it drops all the way down through our system, specifically the gut area. Most of it, actually 80%, is afferent, goes upwards, and 20% is efferent, goes downwards. So it takes a lot. The brain actually is getting a lot of information from the body through this vagus nerve, which is a critical nerve for the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, which with breathing techniques. And what it is that people feel like they're walking with a head, literally, like, and the way I see it is, some people say like my stomach hurts, or I'm having chest pain. So my chest is hurting, my heart's hurting, my stomach's hurting, my legs hurting, whatever it is. It's then, but when it comes to their head, it's I. So it's like I is my head, is me, but my body is the organ. And so they don't realize that this is completely, it's the same thing. We're not walking around with just a head without a body. And I feel like this disconnection is the reason why we see so many patients that are not feeling well. And part of noticing is when you notice a sensation, feeling, it drops in the body. And it's the reaction of that emotion based on usually a prediction of a fear of an anxiety, is that we start feeling those symptoms and then we react to it. So you got into a lot about mindset. Do you do, so mindfulness, you do mind-body connection as well? Do you teach how to regulate, to get into that comfort zone? Because a lot of people are unaware. Yes.
A lot of people are unaware. Yes. What I tend to do, and it depends on how receptive the client is to this. Some are, some are not. I tend to open with a 3-minute meditation, and I only do 3 minutes because that's the most people can handle. And they feel like, wow, I think I took a nap, right? And so where I am really big on is to ask my client, where are you feeling this? To do a body scan. Because I had a client who, this was her second child. She had severe postpartum with the first one. And she was getting into a sense of panic with the second one. She wasn't on medication yet this time around. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm not a therapist. Whatever you need, do you have a therapist? Yes, make sure you're following what they tell you, plus if you need to be on medication, but here's where I can help you, right? Are you feeling the way you felt before? Or do you think you're feeling the way you felt before? Or are you scared of feeling the way you felt the first time. That alone was very important to her. Going back to body scanning, whenever she would feel anxious, there was a day she was pushing her child, going to have coffee with a friend. At some point, she just got the sensation that she was unsafe. Mm-hmm. She immediately turned around and went home. And I said, where did you feel that the most? Mm-hmm. Right? Did you feel that in your gut? Did you feel that in your chest? Did you feel that in your mind? So when we're in session, if they're experiencing anxiety, that's one of the things I focus on. Where are you feeling anxiety? And I tell them to place their right hand, if it's on their chest, mm-hmm. if it's on their head, if it's on the belly, to put one hand on the actual space they're feeling it, the other hand, their left hand, on their heart. Mm-hmm. Then to close their eyes with me and to do some breath work.
Sure.
I sometimes use the 4-7-8 under while breathing, but only if they really need it in that moment. But for the most time, meditation 101 for me is really becoming aware of your breath.
Totally.
To learn how you breathe, right?
Yes.
We all breathe, but it's astonishing how many of us do not know how to breathe, right? So just becoming aware and knowing what your rhythm is, right? Before you can meditate.
When you say astonishing, I'm going to tell you probably 9 out of 10 patients I see, I ask them, how do you, and these are patients that I said, show me how you calm yourself naturally with breath work. No idea. Yeah. I mean, that should be one of the first things we learn as a child, to learn how to breathe and calm our nervous system down. But I like the fact is that you're teaching the nervous system to be safe and secure. That's the key. And self-regulation. And then with you being there is connection too. And also, not only when I say connection, it's not like connection between you and your client. It's a connection also with you and your body. Yes. And that's, it's like, okay, we're together here. Not I and not they. It's all together. It's not two different systems. It's your whole body. It's amazing how we just separate those two. Mm-hmm. And people need to understand that it's all together. And it took me a while to really think this way. Because, I trained very traditional neurology, and I still practice very traditional neurology. I just added all of this because I've noticed that a lot of my patients have gotten better without a prescription. Yeah. Just really talking to your patients, listening to your patients, empathizing with your patients, explaining to your patients what's wrong with them. And then they trust you. And once they trust you, then it's like, whoa, okay. And then they start to open up. And then you start getting into coaching, I basically coaching a lot of my patients. And
I love this for you. I'm very curious. You're the podcaster. You're the one asking me the questions.
Yes.
But one experience actually that will lead to my question.
Yes.
Years ago, I was trying to help my kid get through a shot at the doctor. And I was trying to explain that if you take slow, deep breaths and just become one with your breath, you may not even feel the needle. And it's very interesting for me how breath work can really decrease the pain that we feel. As a doctor that manages or tries to help patients manage actually their pain, how did you get into this trajectory of medicine? Because as you said, you're traditionally trained.
Right.
And I walked in here very curious as to how neurologist Dr. Resnick, trained in conventional medicine, really got into the healthy mind.
I appreciate you asking. I'm going to tell you a crazy story too. As far as I when I was a student, I'm not going to tell you which doctor. They're not practicing anymore. But it was a big clinic, and we, as a student, were learning how to inject vaccines. We used to strap the child down. Yes. Can you imagine? I used to wrap them up with something and to get them, and we used to chase them down. Almost even it was thinking back. I mean, I can imagine how much fear that we brought patients. So now, that's craziness medicine, and obviously things hopefully have changed as far as vaccinations now. But the serious note you asked me was, what was the transition? Was definitely COVID. So when COVID came, the level of uncertainty and fear, pro-vaccine, vaccine, to this day, I'm still seeing patients. And I started to see volumes of patients come into my practice with unexplained symptoms. And I started to realize that the neurology behind it is the same organ as psychiatry, psychology. It's just that we separate. We're in a society of overdiagnosed psychiatry diseases. And we are just labeling conditions over and over again. Just new conditions. And based on, the changes in environment of modern technology, and information overload, and the fact now there's more telehealth now, more telemedicine, less connection. So I noticed that so many people are coming in not feeling well and not, and I would basically prescribe them antidepressants or medication to help them sleep because I was trained that way. So basically you're trained and we're good at that. And it's, it's very interesting in residency is that your patient comes in with a collection of symptoms, you listen to the patient, you do an examination, you order a test, you give a diagnosis, and then you give a pill, a surgery, a therapy, and then out the door, right? But then I was getting patients that I felt that they were coming for a third or fourth opinion. And then I'm like, do I just send them now to a rheumatologist? The rheumatologist sent it to the gastroenterologist sent it to orthopedic, and the patients just are bouncing around, and then they can't see a psychiatrist or psychologist because the stigma of seeing a psychiatrist, the inability to see a psychiatrist, psychologist. Mindfulness coach is mindfulness. I don't know how to meditate. I don't know why. So I started to realize, and then I started to read like excessively. Then I started to attending different conferences, and then I started to learn from my patients. And I'll never forget, I said this before very quickly because it's your time, is that a marriage therapist came into my office and she had migraines, and I asked her at the end, I said, just teach me something. Because I usually ask patients to teach me something about what they do so I can learn. And I have residents and students in the room, and she was telling me very quickly that men and women, when one of the biggest reasons for divorce is that there is communication.
Yes.
And men typically disrupt women, and they don't empathize, and they want to fix things, and it's like just a fix. And women really want to explain their emotions, and they want to be heard. And I was like, whoa, that's what got me. And I said, oh my God, as a doctor, I think this is what we do. We just fix. We're just fixing stuff. We're not listening, really. We're just listening to the diagnosis of what we want to hear. And I can diagnose conditions literally like pretty fast. Parkinson's in 20 seconds. And so, but then it was not working. It's not helping my patients. It's not making them feel better. So I started to listen. I said, today we're gonna just listen. Don't interrupt a patient. And then we're like, oh my God, patients are telling me their habits, what they're fearful, what they're scared of, what they're afraid of. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is, and then I started to realize that my belief was very different, and I changed my belief. And then I started doing drawings and pictures, and patients were getting better. So this was a whole transition to me. And then why I decided on the podcast is because one of the biggest reasons is that I didn't really have social media, and I was one of those like anti-social media. I was like, I'm not doing social media. I don't look at Insta. I don't do that. And I went on it because a lot of my patients were getting information from it, like TikTok and Instagram. And then when they got information from it, I was like, who's giving you this information? And it's really changing people's brains and their beliefs. And the more you repeat, the more you believe. Yeah. And the more they follow an influencer, then the more they believe it. And I'm like, look, I am the one in the hospital taking care of patients. I take call very frequently. I'm seeing patients in the office. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. You got to hear what I'm seeing so I can help you. And let's eliminate the noise, because people like you, it's just like, you're the one, and people like you need to be the ones people need to listen to because of the experience, of the knowledge, of the mindset, of the lack of pushing a pill, a protocol. You're pushing basically a mindset of change with using your own tools that you have inside of you and changing your belief. And that to me is much better and more rewarding than actually giving a medication or a surgery that helps somebody temporarily.
Yeah.
So, I just, that's one of the major reasons that I said, look, that I want to do this, and I want to explain it more relatable so people can understand it. And people like you that, are coming on and able to speak in the language, not that I just want to hear, it's just so correct that people need to hear this.
Yes.
So that's the short to long answer.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so inspired by it. I was especially touched by when you talked about communication between couples. And one of the things I work with my new parents, and because it's chaotic, as you know, when there's a new baby in the house, right?
Yes.
Learning to communicate well is one of the things that becomes the biggest bonus for my clients. One of my number one priorities actually during coaching is to ensure that there's a healthy relationship between the couple. For the simple reason, I'm teaching the client to put boundaries in place, to renegotiate the terms of their relationship with themselves and the world, and that includes bosses, colleagues, husband, partner. And one of the biggest obstacles to that is communication. Listening.
Do you bring the couple in together?
It depends.
Okay.
Some couples love it. Some dads will show up for 3 or 4 sessions and then they fall off, and I finish with just the partner. Remember, the coaching, one thing I didn't mention before was that, say you're the employee and you're the one that's been given the coaching. If you didn't want to do the coaching, but you wanted your wife to do the coaching, you could transfer it to them. So some of them do that. But I've had couples and I've had just dads who are very present and wanted to take advantage of this. And one of the biggest, I think, one of the most impactful tools that they learn from me is communication. Mindful dialogue is so important because it's not passive. First, you're listening to understand. And the playback is always important, and it translates to every relationship in your life. What I'm hearing is, am I right? Is this what you are asking for? If it's your wife, but also for your partner to know what they're asking for them to have the discernment and to learn, what do I need? When do I need it? So discerning the difference between logistical asks and relational asks. We're all human beings and we're wired for connection, right?
Sure.
So we want to be seen and heard.
Yes.
So when you're speaking to your partner or your colleague, it's very important to know, are you saying you're tired and you're exhausted and you want a hug? Are you saying you're exhausted and you want me to do something about it? Would you like me to take over? That's a logistical ask, right? Can you take over the baby so I can sleep early? Can you wake up for one of the feeding sessions? If you're going on all day about how exhausted you are, oh, I don't think you realize how tired I am. Well, you're not really being specific. And most partners, specifically male, they like it when you're being specific, right? Tell me exactly what to do and I'll make it happen.
Right.
You're just making it easy and you're saying, all right, I'm exhausted. I can barely cope today. I need time to go. So you are going to take the baby. I will take a nap, or I'll take a walk. I'm very stressed out. I'm going for a walk. I need a breather. I need a change of environment. So discerning between logistical and relational asks are very important. A relational ask is going to be, can you just sit with me? I need to talk this out.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And when I'm talking this out, I just need you to listen.
Yeah. Let's listen.
Please don't problem solve, right? And then when it's done very well, the receiver will literally just hold you and say, I'm so sorry you're having this kind of day.
That's all. That's it. It's amazing.
Right? But sometimes it can be, I'm very stressed out or I am very upset.
Yeah.
Can you be a sounding board for me?
Yeah.
What did you hear? And can you give me feedback?
Right.
So you have to ask for the support you need. This is where my coaching is not passive. You have to be an active participant in the solution that you're looking for.
It's very multimodal. I mean, you have a lot of layers to unfold between the living. Because again, remember, the nervous system needs safety and security, and home needs to be safe and secure.
Yes.
Okay, just quickly, because there's a lot of different things we can talk about. Is that one of the other issue that I think that you get a lot of, and I know because I'm surrounded by working mamas. Is the guilt of not being with their child. So how do you help with your clients, because they probably feel guilty that they're missing things and they're not there for them, and I feel like then afterwards, correct me if I'm wrong, then the guilt also then leads to overprogramming, where then they take their time where they can have their own time and then just sit with them at soccer practice or something.
So that last piece is important. You being around doesn't equate presence.
Yes.
Right? So we're going to start there and nip it in the bud. Just because you're around your child doesn't mean you are present for your child, right? And then we're going to pivot back to guilt.
Yes, tell me.
We have to change our relationship with the word guilt, is where I start. Guilt is a form of love, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right? When you feel guilty that you're not at home with your child, you love that child so much that being away from them makes you feel bad.
Right.
Right? So change it, right? Change how you define things and your language, because the language, I always say, be careful how you speak to yourself. You are listening. That's where it starts. So guilt is a form of love.
Okay.
Is what I teach
like that. I like the positive,
my clients, right?
Yes, it's the positivity around the word guilt. Yes.
So as a mother, the first thing I do with my clients is I hope and pray, because it doesn't happen as often as you'd think, that I just sneak in that one session before the baby comes, right before they go on parental leave. Do you know why? We sit down, we talk about goals, values, personality traits, and anything else, their fears, their birth plan, their aspirations, and what they hope to experience, because we've been told this story about giving birth for years, right?
Sure.
So what is their version? What movie do they have playing in their heads, right?
Which is usually false beliefs. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So based on that, I talk about their values and goals business-wise. A lot of these women love their jobs. They love who they are when they're at work. They love performing. They love, being challenged, right? So I really do everything I can to make sure that doesn't get lost. So that when now you have the baby, now you're feeling the guilt about going back to work, it's my job to take you back to who you really are and who you were before the baby. Yes, we change, but I know that their jobs are very important to a lot of these clients that I have. And it's remembering why that is important to them, right? For some people, it's a need. Somebody has to go and make the money and make sure that they can sustain this new expanded family.
Quick question. Okay, so how do you tell so when a parent is working and they have a child, how does the parent, I know we're shifting a little bit, but how does the parent tell the child about, because they'll have some guilt and they'll relate, or they'll sorry, I wouldn't say relate. They tell their child that they feel guilty that they're working, and then the program gets downloaded, and I feel like yes, right? Do they need to communicate the fact that mom is working hard? Mom doesn't have, cannot give you enough time. Are you supposed to relate that to your child, or how do you rephrase that so it's positive?
So here's what I'll say.
Tell me.
First, you deal with the mom guilt of going back to work and leaving the infant, right?
Okay.
Over time, you have a new normal.
Yes.
The kid grows up to the point where you can actually have a conversation, right?
Right.
Here's the thing. If you're going to do something, own it. This is my perspective on life. You want to work, you're a parent, and you want to work, right? We can't have it all. It's very difficult to have it all. It's often a lot of trade-offs. You have this big client meeting. You could close this client today, but you also have story time.
Sure.
Right? Now, those are competing priorities. Hopefully not every time, but if there's the one time you really need to be somewhere, you have to commit and go, right? You can explain why you didn't show up for a big event. That's very important, and say, listen, I needed to be here. I was here. I was here, just not physically with you, right? But guess what? The event I went to, I closed the client. This allows me to do more, right? I love my job, right? And I'm sorry I missed this event, but and hopefully you do, I do everything I can to attend all the events. But life is this way. We can't be everywhere, right? I love my job. I love you. Sometimes my job will come second, and sometimes I will miss something. I don't like to hear a sob story. Your child looks up to you. You are their role model, right? If you're going to come back and say, oh, mommy works hard so that you can have shoes.
Yes.
Your kid's going to say, I don't care. I don't want shoes.
Right.
Can you be home?
Yes.
I'll walk.
Exactly.
Flip-flops are good enough for me.
Right.
So it's very important to own it. And if you show your children you love your job, that you're good at your job, and you do make the time to be with your children to the, as much as you can, your children will learn from you.
Exactly.
They will see the energy you take to work and the energy you bring at home.
Love it.
So don't bring anything toxic back home. Okay. Don't be ashamed of what you do, right?
Sure.
Own it. You love your job.
Right.
And tell your kids the perks of having your job, right? Teach them about aspiration and ambition and tell them that's what makes me a great mommy. And they will actually respect that.
Okay, now let's rewind again because we're bouncing back. It's just things, little thoughts coming into my head. So the transition, though, now you have the baby and the child, right? It's your first one, right? Okay, now that's, and then there's maybe nursing involved, and then maybe past the nursing phase, let's say, like, so I know it takes a lot, and you have to go into beliefs. What is the major barrier? What is the most common thing you see in new moms, or moms in general, but new moms that just have a child and have to get back to work? Like, what do they? Number one, yeah.
I would say, first of all, the first challenge is what you said, the guilt of leaving the child. No matter how much they love their kid, they feel guilty. They feel like, how could this child cope without me? Number two, the minute they go back to work, usually it's around 12 weeks. After 12 weeks, your child probably just started sleeping through the night and is getting ready for the 4-month sleep regression. And then you're working, your child is awake all night, and they're a mess at work. That's number two. The biggest one that, the minute you said this, I just went, my God, this is going to blow my mind again because it's so obvious. The pressure to bounce back.
Yeah.
To bounce back physically, emotionally, intellectually, physiologically. So they're still recovering from birth at this stage. Sometimes they had a C-section, or they had a very traumatic birth, or they had pre-existing conditions and they couldn't take medications because they were nursing, and now they have to go back to medication, pumping at work, the pressure at work. And there's what I call the 4-week amnesia, which is you've been back at work for 3 weeks. Week 4 arrives. Everyone forgets you are on parental leave, and you are a new mom, and you're still recovering, and the expectations pile up.
Yeah.
And at that point, you are thinking, wait, I still need a pumping station. I'm still recovering. I'm still sleep deprived. I need a transition period. So I try to make sure that companies are allowing parents up to 16 weeks of transitioning. It doesn't mean you're off the hook on everything, but to just give them grace for those few weeks, because it's very difficult to be a functioning adult with this much sleep, right? And the one I said is the biggest one is the pressure to bounce back. Every pregnancy is different. Every birth story is different. I had a really traumatic story with one of my clients where she had this beautiful story she had created about how the birth would go and how she would meet her baby, and they would, form this immediate bonding, and it would be beautiful. What happens was she had to deal with I think it's cord prolapse. It's where the umbilical cord slips into the canal before the baby presents itself. And now there's risk of the baby putting pressure on the cord
Sure.
and restricting oxygen supply. Right away, she was wheeled into the OR, and it was a C-section. She felt robbed of her process. She couldn't bond with the baby. The baby was in ICU for a different reason, but she was in ICU for like 3 days, and she, for weeks, could not bond with her baby. And she was very angry, but she didn't realize it. She was angry that this is not the story she planned. This is not the birth story she had in mind. And we had to work on mourning the loss of what she thought would happen, embracing what happened, right? And coming to terms with, with not the what if, but what is.
What is,
Yeah,
right.
you have to show up for what is. But first, I had her literally journal and tell me exactly the story she had in mind and how it would go.
Right.
She wrote me a beautiful letter. And I said, that's an amazing birth story, and I'm sorry you didn't have it. Right?
Right.
But now that we can embrace what happened,
Right.
we can work through what didn't happen, how you can cope with what didn't happen, so it's not keeping you at night, and so you can bond with your child. So this, I had to negotiate a staggered return to work
I'm sure.
for this client, because she needed time to bond with her baby. If she left and went back to work feeling like she hadn't fully bonded with her child, I think that would have been a big problem. So many different things happen.
Many different things. And,
Yes.
And
each one is unique.
Definitely unique.
We think we think pregnancy and parenting is so universal that it happens the same for everybody, but we forget everyone comes with their story and their experiences.
well said. And it is very complicated, as you can see, and I appreciate it. Let me ask you a question. There's a couple questions left. When I talked about a little bit about overprogramming your child and being
Yes.
there. So I see, like, I grew up playing sports, and when I played sports, my parents really allowed me to play the sport and not come to my practices and not all the matches or the tournaments or whatever I was playing, but came to the ones that were somewhat larger or bigger or where I wanted them. I just, I kind of grew up not in a way, not even wanting them there. It's just, but now it's like every parent has to be there. It's like a comparison or a competition. And I feel like it's so important for an athlete to bond with their coach.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're there for, the coach. And the family supports them at the games, that's fine. But to get involved, so I feel like a lot of people are losing their own time and their window of allowing themselves to do things for themselves, as opposed to bringing, the lemonade or the cookie, whatever it is, or going to the practice. And I don't know. I feel I just maybe the way I grew up is different. I just feel like utilize that time for yourself. And I feel like when you're guilty, not as a working mom, then you need to be a part of that practice and stuff. Do you agree with me with that? In general, well, you have a rowing, right? So
Yes.
right. But do you have to be at every practice? Well, you're not going to be there in the morning, I'm sure. But as far as like you support, yes, I'm there for you. But there's got to be time where if you are a parent that is working, right, you need some time, I think, for yourself. Like we talked about those moments. But don't you agree, or what do you feel about that? Or disagree, that's fine.
So I'm looking at it in two different ways, right?
Yes.
One, we're going to go back to guilt.
Yes.
Because we talked about guilt before. And the guilt is literally in our hands, right? If you read just the news and you just type in parenting on Google, and there'll be like, there's a snowplow parent,
Right.
there is a backpack parent, a
Helicopter.
parent, there's so many different ones now,
Yes.
right? And then parents are inundated by all of this information,
Yes.
right? Like, oh, do you know what? They don't even show up for practice,
Right.
right? What kind of parents are they?
Exactly.
There's so much judgment.
Yes, so much. If you're right, exactly.
Yes, and because there's so much judgment out there, parents are coming, whether they're exhausted, depleted, or they have time. Some are showing up and they're in meetings the whole time during practice. So
exactly.
are you even really there,
Right.
right? So I can see where you're coming from. I have a rower. My
Yes.
younger kid is a
Yes.
rower. The rowing by design saves every parent. As long as you can drop them off, you just pick them up at 7. That's it. You're not there. You don't see the practice. You just go to the regattas, which
Sure,
are the
of
big
course.
thing.
Yeah.
And so by design, that really aligns with what you were saying, how you were brought up, and it allows the kid to have their space and their
time.
world,
Yeah.
and the parents to be productive or maybe take that time for themselves, right? The other piece, though, is when you have the kind of sports where parents can come, like soccer, for example. My kid played soccer before she started rowing. And this is where discernment is key. Do you need to be there? If you feel like you need to be there, does your child need you to be there? Kids are very different. Born in the same house, completely different. Same parents.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I got 3 different ones.
Yes, they always say parents never raise the same children and children never have the same parents.
Yep, totally.
Right?
Different times of our life. Absolutely.
Exactly. So you might have that child that just feels great when they see you on the stands watching. And so if you have that kid, please show up. If you have the kid that's like, I'm good, but make sure you come to this one. It is raising the kind of child that can communicate their needs and show you the path. Our children are our teachers, right? If we can follow their lead, parenting becomes less about us and more about them. So we are doing for them. So I'm a big proponent on a healthy parent is always going to be a great parent, right? So take care of yourself. If you need that afternoon to recalibrate, recharge your batteries so that you can be a better mom when your kid shows up after practice, please stay at home. You are of no use to that kid, stressed out, standing there watching him practice, right? But if you have the time and you can go and you think it'll benefit your child, go. Every family is different. Every child is different.
I love that.
And therefore, you have to really follow the lead of the child that's in front of you.
That's great advice. And the connection you and I have is that you're doing this in the parenting level as well as other things, and I am more in my office, and it's just because the physical symptoms that people feel come out in their body, and they end up coming to see me, and medically I can look at it as a medical perspective of what they're feeling, and then diagnose maybe some type of condition based on their symptoms. Is that I could see this as a parent, and how many people come into my office with symptoms of anxiety or depression, burnt out, or headaches and difficulty sleeping, which we got into, and those are all physical symptoms. So I want my audience to see that it doesn't begin in my office as a pill. It actually, starts off with the mindset in order to feel better, and it's not. It's many different things, and it comes to so many different things, but it all comes to really the foundation, which is a healthy mind, which is your mind and your brain and your emotional health. Yes. And then that mindset and the habits and your belief system and the ability to change is all part of that, because then everything else aligns. And it's just a little bit, just what I want to just summarize is that people come to see me also for stroke, Alzheimer's disease, many conditions. Those are, even migraine, those are inflammatory conditions. We're learning, and multiple sclerosis, we're learning about these inflammatory conditions, or what they deemed some other conditions are autoimmune conditions, and that's all generated through stress and inflammation. So, that's the key here, is that to really get to the bottom of the foundation is so important. So I want to thank you, Faiza, and before we leave, I want, or if you can, please help us. How do we find you? Where do we go to find you? And give us a website, and or how can we contact you? Yes.
My website is faizalibancoaching.com. That's F for Frank, A for Apple, I for India, Z for Zebra, A, L for Lima, I for India, B for Bravo, A for Alpha, N coaching.com. I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. Just look up Faiza Liban. You should be able to find me. But I also want to say thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure being here and talking to you about this conversation. And I look forward to speaking again.
Amazing. Thank you so much.